Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Park across the street. No, I got a pass. I still have one. Huh? No, they let me keep it. Former council member lets me in. It's like a fast pass.
On that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please share your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the room. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. All speakers at the podium, please remove your face mask before speaking into the microphone. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the commission and the board will be retained by the secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking, but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please provide your contact information to the planning department. The Planning Commission and the board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on all the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as courteous and concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available from the planning staff. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to the district court.
All right, next item is roll call of members present.
Yes, sir. Fry?
Present.
Mater?
Present.
McKay?
Present.
Dual is absent for right now. I know he went to his car.
Yeah,
just to
he's
grab
here,
something,
but-
so he'll be back. Bill Johnson?
Present.
Hi.
Present.
Nix is absent. Kluntz?
Here.
Warren?
Present.
Joe Johnson?
Here.
Miles is absent. Zimbelman is absent. Aldridge?
Here.
Williams Bay?
Here.
Sir, I show 3 members are absent and 11 members are present, including Mr. Dual.
All right, thank you. When he comes in, we'll change the record to reflect. Next item is approval of the prior MAPC meeting minutes from May 8th. I show that all were present at that meeting.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Joe Johnson with a second by Commissioner Williams Bay. Let the record reflect that Mr. Dual is back in attendance. So call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next item, we will review the MAPC items and see which ones we can approve on consent. The first one is item 3.1, vacation 2025-14. This is a vacation request in the county, South Bedford and East Bel Air Avenue. Is there anyone on the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 3.1 to consent.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve 3.1 as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Warren with a second by Commissioner Williams-Bay to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Now we'll hear, we will review the conditional use items. 4.1, conditional 2025-67, conditional use for an accessory apartment on North Indiana Avenue and 8th Street North. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 4.1 to consent. Item 4.2 was deferred from April 24th. This is PUD 2025-3. Zone change in the county from RR to PUD for electric substation, West 79th Street South and South Seneca Street. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? I'm seeing a couple of hands raised, so we will hear item 4.2. Item 4.3 is deferred to June 12th. Item 4.4 is PUD 2025-6, a zone change in the city from GO to PUD, East Central Avenue and North 127th Street East. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? I see several hands raised. Is the agent or applicant present? Okay, good. We will hear item 4.4. Item 4.5, PUD 2025-7, a zone change from B multifamily residential to PUD, 45th Street South and South Meridian Avenue. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Okay, we will hear item 4.5 on consent. Item 4.6, PUD 2025-8, zone change from SF5 to PUD, East Lincoln and South Greenwich Road approximately. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? I'm seeing none. We'll hear item 4.6 on consent. Item 4.7, staff is recommending denial, so we will hear item 4.7. Item 4.8 is Zone 2025-19, zone change request in the city from SF5 to NR, East Central Avenue and Edgemore. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 4.8 to consent. Item 4.9 is a zone change request. The staff is recommending denial, so we will hear that. It is Zone 2025-21. And that is all for our consent agenda items. So I need a motion to approve the consent items. I will make the motion to approve items 4.1, 4.5, 4.6, and 4.8 on consent.
Second.
And we have a second from Commissioner Aldrich. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Sorry, I couldn't get that out. Okay, so the first item, we will now hear is case 4.2 PUD 2025-3. Mr. Heatherly.
Put a quarter in.
Check. Okay, we're good. All right. Thank you, Brad Etherly, Senior Planner, Planning Department. We are here to discuss case PUD 2025-00003. For this case, the applicant is requesting a zone change from rural residential district to PUD to create the Appaloosa Substation Plan Unit Development, which would be PUD number 139. The subject site is 6.49 acres in size and is generally located south of West 79th Street South and within 1,000 feet west of South Seneca Street. The subject site is currently developed for agricultural uses. The proposed PUD's Parcel 1 allows for a utility major and associated equipment as well as a wireless communications tower with a maximum height of 150 feet. Originally, the applicant had indicated in the proposed PUD language that landscaping would not be required. Landscaping is not required in the unincorporated Sedgwick County. There has been some change to that. I will get to that in a little bit as far as the PUD language for landscaping. If approved, the PUD with the applicant's proposed language would eliminate the need for a conditional use for a wireless communication tower on the in the subject site. The Wichita-Sedgwick County Wireless Communication Master Plan limits the height of towers in the RR district that can be approved by administrative permit to 120 feet as long as it complies with compatibility height standards of the UZC. The proposed tower exceeds that height guideline by 30 feet. So although a PUD can allow a wireless communication facility as a permitted use, planning staff does recommend that any placement of a wireless communication facility adhere to the compatibility setbacks outlined in the UZC. If future placement of a tower at a location that does not meet the compatibility height standards, the applicant would be required to submit an administrative adjustment to review the request. The proposed PUD is proposing that screening be provided by precast concrete panels, cast-in-place concrete fence, or other high-security solid fence, or chain link fence, and shall be no more than 10 feet in height and allowed to be placed within the setbacks. Section 4B of the UZC prohibits the use of chain link as a screening material, and so therefore staff would recommend the PUD text be modified to remove the ability to use chain link fences. The proposed PUD language indicates that there would not be a requirement for parking to be provided on the site, and setbacks would be according to the RR zoning district standards. The character of the neighborhood is rural. Properties to the north and northeast across West 79th Street North are zoned SF20, single-family residential, and are developed as agricultural fields, and at least at some point, oil and gas drilling. Property to the south and west is one lot, is zoned RR, rural residential, and is developed with agricultural fields. And property to the east is zoned RR and is developed with agricultural fields. The subject property is unplatted. The subject site is under the Hayesville subdivision jurisdiction, and the applicant would need to reach out to the Hayesville Planning Department for any platting requirements. And there are no other zoning cases associated with this property. The subject site does have access to West 79th Street North, which is a paved two-lane county arterial street with open ditches on both sides, and water and sewer services will not be needed at this time. The request is in partial conformance with the Community Investments Plan. The 2035 Future Growth Concept Map identifies the area as appropriate for small city urban growth area. This is, like I said, being in the Hayesville urban growth area, we did review the Hayesville Comprehensive Plan to identify the proposed future land use of the subject site. And that map from the city of Hayesville shows the site is appropriate for residential. And while the PUD does not support residential uses, the infrastructure provided by the electrical substation and a possible wireless communication facilities are necessary for the growth of the community. Now, I did receive comment from the Hayesville Planning Department. I have put the email from that department in front of you, but I'll just kind of read what they said. The Hayesville Planning Department, after staff review, recommends approval with an added condition that landscaping be required along the north and west property lines. They state that this area has the potential for residential development in the future. Also, the city's hike and bike path will run north of the site along 79th Street South, 79th Street South. They state that city landscaping requirements would require a site of this size to have 20 square feet of landscaped street yard per lineal foot of street frontage. They also require one shade tree or its equivalent per every 500 square feet of required landscape street yard. And as a buffer between non-residential and residential areas, a minimum of one shade tree or two ornamental trees for every 40 feet of, or a fraction thereof of lot line abutting the residential district. I reached out to the applicant's agent and let her know that the City of Hayesville Planning Department had made that recommendation. They got in touch with the Hayesville Planning Department and they came to an agreement that is in the other email that is in front of you from Rebecca Millies, basically stating that they expressed concern with complying with the city's required policy due to the proximity of the trees to the wall and conformance with Evergy's safety guidelines, and that the planning department was in agreement with the use of shrubs instead of trees, understanding Evergy's policy on it. They worked out an agreement with the addition of shrubs along the west side at a rate of 1 per 50-foot increment, and that they would be in agreement with the north side request as well if there was room, but between the easements on the north and the required detention pond north of the substation, there's not any room for those plantings that wouldn't negatively impact the compliance with the stormwater requirements. So, having said all of that, the agent is here. She might be able to go into that a little bit more further, but I did want to let you guys know that there's been some discussion, and with that, the agent did present a new drawing that is also in front of you that just kind of, I've highlighted the change, and it's basically just the landscape language. And so we will be going to the Hayesville Planning Commission tonight to discuss this matter, so there will be a recommendation from them going forward. If we can go to the site pics. This is looking east away from the site down 79th. Next picture. This is looking north away from the site. You can see that oil and gas drilling. I don't know if it is still in use or not, but it obviously has been at some point. Next picture. This is looking south into the site. Next picture. And this is looking west away from the site. So staff does recommend approval of the application, subject to the provisions of the Appaloosa Station Substation Plan Unit Development language, with the modified language that's in front of you, and subject to the conditions that are listed in the staff report. We have not received any public comment on this, and these are based off of the golden factors. And with that, I can stand for any questions.
Thank you, Brad. I have a question from Commissioner Aldrich.
Yeah, Brad, just out of curiosity, does the city of Hayesville give a time frame on when they were looking at residential development to start?
They indicated that they have had some interest, but I don't think that they have anything solid yet. But they're not here at this planning commission, so I don't know for sure if there is something solid in the works. But they have stated that there's been interest.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Brad, do we have this revised sketch as part of our presentation?
We do not. It was submitted too late.
So the only question I have is, according to the agent, and I'm sure she can get to it, the required detention pond north of the sub, south of the easement is why there's no trees on the north side. But I guess I don't understand. Looks like there's plenty of room. Am I misinterpreting this layout?
Yeah, I will let the agent speak to that. We were fine with no additional landscaping since it's in the county, but because of the Hayesville request, they came in pretty late itself. We haven't really had a chance to take a look at those changes, but the agent might have some more.
Did you say if there's someone from Hayesville Planning present here?
They aren't, as far as I know, they are not here.
Okay, that's really why I had the question, because I know it was more germane to their landscape requirement than ours. So, okay. Any other questions for staff? Thank you. We'll now ask the applicant and/or agent to come forward. You'll have up to 10 minutes. Please give us your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Rebecca Milius, PEC 303 South Topeka here in Wichita. I do have Tyler with Evergy here with me as well for any construction and substation related questions that may come up. Brad did a really nice job kind of summarizing our sequence of events here. So I'm going to hit on a couple of topics to try to answer some of your questions. And then if you'd like, we do have a presentation prepared to kind of talk about the necessity of the substation, but we'll leave that for later and at your discretion. So first and foremost, we're in agreement with staff comment. We have made the revisions on the PUD that you have in front of you. It also has the other red line revisions from the staff report incorporated. So the removal of the chain link fence and the other editorial changes. Regarding the landscaping, so Commissioner Fry, what is not reflected on the PUD is the drainage plan. This site does have to be in conformance with county drainage standards, which means we have to provide on-site detention for our new impervious area. And based on the grade and the drainage patterns, the location of that detention pond is from the edge of the transmission line easement adjacent to street right-of-way up to our wall face. So the challenge that we run into in complying with the requested landscaping space is there's not physical room between the edge of the wall and the edge of that pond. If we were to put plantings there, we would put ourselves in an issue of not complying fully with the stormwater ordinance, which is our desire to eliminate the need along the north side. And then just to kind of highlight again, the desire for trees, while we understand it, the challenge we run into is truly a safety perspective between individuals. As much as we don't want to think people want to go inside substations, for some reason they're very exciting to people and they like to climb those trees and get in, which is obviously opposite of the desire of that safety fence. But even more so, it's animals. If we have trees too close to that wall, we will have animals that climb in those trees and get in and cause damage within the substation that we really want to avoid. If at all possible. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions. And like I said, we do have a presentation if you'd like to see why the substation is necessary. Otherwise, we can save that for the next substation.
All right. Any questions from the commission? Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Appreciate you both being here. We'll now open it up to public comment. If there's anybody from the public who would like to speak on this matter, please come to the podium. Give us your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Name Steve Burton, 830 West 79th. I don't have any problem with the utilities there. The problem is the stormwater. If you look, when he showed the pictures, it's uphill every way from there, and the drainage is, I'm downstream from that. And if they don't have a retention pond, all that water will come to my house in my basement, and I don't want that.
So are you south of the property?
I'm east and south.
Okay, so are you not present on this? We can't see your place on this picture?
No.
Okay.
It's the other side of the railroad track. See those houses over there on the far side over?
You can use the cursor to point to it.
Okay. Over here?
Yes.
That's my property.
Okay.
That's Michelle's. That's mine. That's Dawn's. That's new. I'm right there.
Okay.
All
Thank
that.
you.
Anyway, I've lived there about 40 years and know where the water goes. And every way you look, this way is uphill, that way is uphill, that way is uphill, and it all runs down below along the railroad track right there. And the only outage is 6th Street down there is Hayesville. And if it rains 2 inches or more, those basements in town flood. All along here, this is a deep waterway, so don't have a problem if they build a big ass way to hold the water.
Right.
Talk to Scott. He's been down there when that street goes under. Seneca goes underwater.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll ask the applicant agent to come back for rebuttal. You'll have up to 2 minutes.
We'll be in compliance with the stormwater ordinance and make sure we keep our water on our site. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on, we have a question. Commissioner McKay?
In her presentation, you said that something about the landscaping would counterbalance the fact that of your retention pond. Now you just said that which one are you going to abide by?
So our request is, we were in agreement with staff recommendations, which was to not have any landscaping required. We received comment at the end of last week from the city of Hayesville that they were requesting that we add landscape in. What we would like your approval on today is what I'm going to call a hybrid, which is an agreement that we will install landscaping in accordance with the language that's on the revised PUD in front of you, which is that we will have shrubs along our west property line at a rate of 1 per 50 foot. And that those would be, full disclosure, you're looking at it, that those are going to be drought tolerant, and we will not have irrigation on site because water and electricity don't mix. So I'm not real excited about drilling a well, and we don't have city water nearby. So we will be selective with our plantings. And so in support of potential residential development to the west, we would install landscaping along that west side, but our intention is to not install any landscaping along the north due to the space required to meet the drainage requirements.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion. Commissioner Joe Johnson.
Would a motion to approve it without landscaping until such time as houses go in, then they'd have to put the landscaping in on the west side? I mean, they're going to die without any water.
Unless they're drought tolerant.
What's that? What kind are those?
Plastic. Cactus. I don't know that the Hayesville ordinance is specific to that, or if that was considered or not. Staff have any comment related to that?
Samantha Seeing, Assistant County Counselor. In terms of Mr. Johnson's request or motion, potential motion, it would be allowed. It would just depend on enforcement issues, which would be complaint-based, which is how it is anyways.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion then.
Mr. Wadle, I think he was going to add in.
Sure. Just to add in terms of drought tolerant, I think we can be pretty flexible. We would just like to have them, if there was ever a question that arose, we'd want to see evidence that it's classified in some way, form or fashion as drought tolerant. Obviously, our intent is not to have them plant plants that will not survive without irrigation. Landscaping's there for a purpose, so we want to make sure those plants survive, and we hope that they'll choose good ones and that they'll be able to justify them as drought tolerant.
Commissioner McKay.
This goes before the Planning Commission in Hayesville tonight.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Why don't they come back with a different recommendation and we're going to approve or disapprove?
So in that case, either way, this is a zone change and will go before the Board of County Commissioners for final action. So your recommendation and Hayesville's recommendation will ultimately be decided by the Board of County Commissioners. So you guys can make an alternate recommendation than what Hayesville suggested. I wanted to bring up regarding landscaping, if this is ultimately approved with the requirement of landscaping on the west side, regardless of irrigation or drought tolerant plants, it is on Evergy to replace them should they die. Like, it's not a one-time and then you don't ever have to put landscaping in again. I think it would be Evergy's prerogative that they would provide plants that would be low maintenance and low risk of having to constantly replace them as well.
Commissioner Aldrich.
Yeah, me personally, I have a problem with requiring any type of landscaping, especially since there's not going to be any watering and stuff. That's expensive, and especially if you plant it, it's going to die, and you got to turn around and replant, and you can't water, whether or not, because you just don't have the water out there to do that. So I think that is, not a good fiscal policy to and burden to put on the applicant on this. So, and I don't know whether Commissioner Johnson is going to make a motion or not. But, okay,
I made the motion to approve it without the requirement on the west side.
Until such time that residential development occurs.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Hold on.
Commissioner Johnson.
We have a second. We have a motion on the floor and a second by Commissioner High. We have a comment by Commissioner
Who
Warren.
determines when is enough
Is it
development?
one house? Do we need to put a number on that? Is it?
How close? I mean, that's a pretty vague statement. Say when it develops, that can be years and years. So we need to put a definition to that.
well, I agree with what the Commissioner is saying. I know there's a motion and a second. So would it be appropriate this time if I wish to make a substitute motion?
Or you can ask if there's a friendly amendment to the motion.
Okay, we'll try that first. I would ask for a friendly amendment to include the text, the PUD at 139, that the agent for the applicant has submitted.
What was the last part?
That the agent for the applicant has submitted. Page 5 of our reports.
I think it would be worth maybe reading that out
Yeah.
for the record so everyone's clear
That'd be good.
what that is.
Okay, the alternative to the PUD, which with the setbacks for the wireless communication comply with the capabilities, setbacks found in the Unified Zone Code. It also eliminates the chain length. It also plainly states in there that on the landscape, there'd be no landscaping requirement.
So essentially your motion is for the planning staff recommendation.
Yes.
Okay, so that's now not a friendly amendment. Now it's a substitute motion. So substitute motion is to remove Commissioner Johnson's requirement with the caveat that there needs to be housing. You're now saying just remove the landscaping entirely.
That's correct. It's a waste of time and money.
We have a
to
second
do that.
for that? That was who? Commissioner Warren. Okay. Discussion, Commissioner Mader.
At this point, I'm going to have to vote against it because the landscaping thing, that it's difficult. Well, yeah, it's difficult. We haul water to trees when necessary where there's not an irrigation on a new development. I think Evergy can put out that same effort. And if it's required, they'll do it and they'll do it right. And if we just say it's not required, that's just giving away an opportunity to have it.
If there's no water to water your trees, your plants, and everything else, why go through that burden of that expense?
As I said, I've hauled water to developments for trees when there wasn't any available until they became mature enough. A good drought-hardy plant will survive within reason as long as you water it in the first couple of years. That's my thought anyway. That's where I'm at on it.
But this is also not a residential type development. This is a substation. And I thought that the agent for the applicant gave adequate reasons why you don't want plants and stuff. If you look at any substation around, there's a reason why they don't do that. It's a hazard.
Okay, we've had a discussion. We've had a motion and a second, substitute motion and a second. Call for a vote. All in favor of the substitute motion to approve with the conditions? Commissioner Warren. All those in favor of the substitute motion to approve with conditions as staff presented? Did I see?
So may we take a roll call, just
Yeah, we
just
can
for the
do that
record?
by voice vote. All in favor? Start with the roll call, please.
Okay, Fry,
Nay.
Mater,
Okay.
McKay,
Yes.
Dool,
Yes.
Bill Johnson.
Yes.
High,
Yes.
Nix is absent. Klontz,
Nay.
Warren,
Yes.
Joe Johnson.
Nay.
Miles is absent. Zimbelman is absent. Aldridge,
Yes.
Williams Bay.
Nay.
Motion passes 6-5.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which what did I do with my minute, my agenda? There it is. Item 4.4, PUD 2025-6. Christina.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Christina Reith with planning staff here to present PUD 2506, PUD 2506, sorry. The applicant is requesting a zone change from general office to planned unit development to create the central garage condos addition planned unit development, PUD number 142. The subject site is a little bit under an acre in size and located on the south side of East Central, a quarter mile west of North 127th. So the address is 12421 East Central. It's currently undeveloped, but was previously developed with a single-family dwelling until a wrecking permit was submitted earlier this year. The applicant submitted a document, a planned unit of the planned unit development, and in that document, the PUD would consist of one parcel, parcel 1. As it was submitted, the applicant proposes 13 storage units that each measure 25 and a half feet by length and 45 feet in depth. This planned unit development, it also features a 20-foot front building setback and 10-foot setbacks on the rear and sides. There would be one access point from East Central Avenue, and the PUD proposes a maximum height of 45 feet without compatibility height or setback standards. Due to the existing residential uses in the surrounding vicinity, staff is recommending a maximum height of 35 feet, which matches the height restriction as well as the compatibility standards in the Unified Zoning Code. The applicant is requesting to allow uses permitted by right in the office warehouse district, such as community assembly, daycare, construction sales and service, monument sales, nurseries, and wholesaler business services. It does not allow for residential uses either by right or with a conditional use. It's located on an arterial street, but it is still adjacent to residential zoning. And so for that reason, staff is recommending removing most of the permitted uses that may require large trucks to come in and out of the site at any time of the day. So that includes construction sales and service, nurseries, and wholesaler business services. So we do have our edits to, or our recommended text to the PUD document, and that is on page 8 of your staff report. Staff feels that the level of large truck activity at any time of the day could have negative impacts on the residential uses nearby. In the office warehouse district, which is what they we're suggesting for permitted uses here. Warehouse self-service storage is permitted with a conditional use and subject to supplementary use regulations. And these regulations that are outlined in the Unified Zoning Code, they provide development standards for building setbacks, landscaping, lighting, architectural design, and so on and so forth. As it is written, the PUD actually omits most of these regulations and is actually less restrictive. However, this PUD, it acts in lieu of a conditional use because the public hearing and notification processes are the same. I also included a table in my staff report comparing the regulations with the PUD document. Parking on site would be per the regulations of Section 4A of the Unified Zoning Code. The applicant in this document has indicated 6 parking spaces provided in the front setback near the site's entrance. The proposed garage condominiums would each have their own covered parking space. And the proposed use on site, which is essentially warehouse, self-service storage, it requires one parking space per employee per 8,000 square feet of floor area. But in no case shall be less than 5 spaces. On the document, it shows 6 spaces, so that's one additional parking space. In the PUD document, landscaping requirements shall follow the regulations set forth by the Wichita Area Landscape Code. Staff is actually recommending that the landscape buffer outlined in the zoning code be 1.5 times the standard and at least 50% of the trees be evergreen. The applicant is also proposing signage adhere to the office warehouse district standards, provided that an LED or an electronic message sign is prohibited. In the OW zoning district, that would be one ground or pole sign permitted on site with a maximum area of 150 square feet. And then all illuminated signs should only have direct or internal illumination of light. And again, due to the proximity of residential properties, staff recommends prohibiting any illuminated signs in addition to billboards and off-site signs. For screening, they would have to adhere to the screening standards, which is a 6-foot minimum solid fence where abutting residentially zoned properties. Staff is in agreement with the PUD document in that regard. However, the PUD does not specify any lighting standards for the property. And again, due to the residential properties in the immediate area, staff recommends that lighting sources shall be limited to 15 feet in height and cannot shine onto the neighboring properties. So the character of the neighborhood is residential on the arterial street, but as we get closer to the intersection of the 2 arterial streets, we're seeing some more commercial development. So to the north, across East Central, we have single-family zoning with single-family dwellings. To the south, we also have single-family zoning with single-family dwellings, same with the property to the east. And then to the west, is the same. However, to the west of the sites that are, if we look at the zoning map here, everything that you see here is that is in white, that is a single family zoning. But if we look at in the green, that is general office. And then if we look at the red, that is limited commercial. The requested zone change is in conformance with the Community Investment Plan's Wichita Future Growth Concept Map. It identifies the area to be appropriate for residential and employment mixed uses. So that's areas of land that will likely be developed or redeveloped by 2035 with uses predominantly of a mixed nature. Due to the proximity of higher intensity business uses, residential housing types will likely be of higher density. Due to the proximity of residential uses, employment uses will likely have limited negative impacts associated with noise, hazardous emissions, visual blight, and odor. The anticipated use on site is an appropriate intensity for this category and proposes appropriate screening and landscaping to limit some of the potential negative impacts. When we look at the Community Investment Plan's land use compatibility guidelines, it states that residential and non-residential development areas should generally be separate and distinct with appropriate screening and buffering to ensure compatibility among land uses while maintaining connectivity among uses. Staff is recommending approval of this application, subject to the revised PUD text and the conditions listed in your staff report. And this recommendation is based on the golden rules, which are also provided in your report. At the time it was prepared, staff had received one comment from a gentleman who was opposed to the development. Earlier this week, you guys received several comments via email, mostly in opposition to the requested zone change. And I did provide 2 comments that were received this morning. Those are printed out and on your desks. So with that, let's go to some of the site photos here. This is looking east away from the site. This is going towards 127th Street. Next slide, please. This is looking north away from the site across East Central Avenue. Next slide, please. This is looking south towards the site. Next slide, please. This is looking west away from the site towards Greenwich. And with that, I will stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Any questions from the commission? Seeing none. Oh, hold on, Commissioner Duell.
make sure I understand what this structure is going to look like. Is this all under one building, or these two separate buildings with garages?
It is my understanding that these are attached garage condos. It looks like, according to the PUD document, they have one structure here with 3 attached garages. Same on the bottom here, and then here we can see 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes.
Thank you, Christina. Seeing no more questions from the commission, we'll ask the applicant or agent to come forward. You'll have 10 minutes to address the commission. Please give us your name and address for the record.
To start out, we do have a very minor rotation that
And we'll give, let's,
providing copies for the commission to review.
and this is our first viewing of it. Staff has not seen this? You have? Staff has seen it? Okay.
Yeah. So Ken Lee with Garver, 1995 Midfield Road, Wichita, Kansas, agent for the applicant. As staff's comments that came back, we reviewed those comments with our client, and we were in agreement with all staff comments or recommendations for changes. The height. Okay.
Hold on, Ken, we're gonna let this get it passed out.
Okay.
Everybody get it, and then we'll start the clock for you.
Okay.
And I'll let Philip get seated back. We had some crosstalk going on too, so I don't think everyone was paying attention.
Okay.
All right, you ready, Philip? Okay, we can start the clock.
Okay, so we've reviewed the comments from staff and reviewed those with our client, and he was in agreement with all the changes that were made. The lighting sources that it was mentioned that we didn't specify the lighting source, and on a project like this, there'll be just lights mounted on the fronts of the buildings that will face inward into the site. Though there's no plans for any exterior lighting that would go towards adjoining properties. We'll of course have a final lighting plan that'll be submitted with the project when it goes to MAPCD for review. The recommendation for the increase in the number of trees, with 50% of them being evergreens, was acceptable. The thing I'll mention, the revised drawing that I handed out, the reason for the revision is we originally proposed 6 parking spaces based on the requirement for 5. But after further discussions with our client, he noted, and we discussed this, these are garage condos, so we're actually providing 26 parking spaces inside the buildings, and the graphic there shows the 2 parking spots per building. So we're recommending going down to 4 instead of 6 at the front. So we'll have a total of 30 off-street parking spots available on this project. So that is the one change that we've got requested here. Beyond that, the height restriction was no issue. That they're looking at a 35-foot height anyway, so that's fine. And the other uses, they're not planning on any alternative uses, so the reduction in the number of uses is not a problem. I will say that when we looked at this project originally, the developer was looking at, and there's different things that can be done on a property like this with the zoning that was there, which is the general office, and it could have been that office. That zoning allows for duplexes, manufactured homes, and other uses. And we didn't feel like, given the nature of the neighborhood, something like that would be done. And so he was looking, and he wanted to do garage condos instead. So that's all I have. So I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Mader.
Just some clarification. You've suggested there will be no lighting facing outside of the property, facing on the exterior walls. I'm afraid that when you get in for building permits, they're going to require at least a light at each door.
Yeah,
the exterior light. So it won't be the large yard lighting we're talking about, but the neighbors will see a light.
Yeah. So when I say facing inward, it's going to be facing inward into the site on the exterior of the buildings, facing towards the other buildings. There'll be lighting in that respect, but we're not proposing other light standards or anything like that. So the parking area, the areas between the buildings will be lit, but we'll comply with the lighting requirements that are listed.
We have one down here.
They're just small lights, but your back doors do face the opposing, the other properties. And outside each back door, I believe there'll be at least a small light required.
I was reviewing the rest of the comments on that, and we're actually going to have to eliminate those doors, I think. So those doors aren't going to be there because it doesn't allow doors within 40 feet. And I didn't catch that until I was reading through the comments today. So that drawing shows back patios, but we're gonna have to remove those. So the drawing there, we won't have those back patios.
Okay, so what we're reviewing right now shows back patios on the east and west elevations, and you're saying those will not be part of it. Okay.
Like I said, I was reviewing the staff comments today, and I realized that one of the requirements is there's no doorways allowed within 40 feet of the residential uses, and we will eliminate those after reviewing that.
Commissioner Williams Bay.
Yes. Do you own the remainder of the site, and are there any plans for future expansion?
No plans for future expansion.
Do you own the rest of the site there? Is that under this ownership?
No, the area shown on the exhibit is what they own, and there's no room with the setbacks. There's no room for additional expansion.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Joe Johnson.
Yeah, I assume there'll be no vehicles stored in the middle between the two facilities, right?
Correct. Yeah, there's no plan for parking or storage in the middle. And I'll note that the gap between the two buildings that was actually a requirement of the fire department to provide a fire safety turnaround. So that's why there's a gap on that one side, as we've already worked with Chief O'Cades to get approval on that. And we'll have that signed with no parking, so nobody parks in the fire lane.
And on that west exterior, there will be a solid screening between and the opening there on the west side.
Yeah, we'll provide screening along the whole perimeter.
Got it. Any other questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you.
Stand by, because I think we have some public comment. So at this point, if you want to speak on this matter, you'll come to the podium, give us your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Susan Poole, and I live at 384 North Jackson Heights Court in the Marinita neighborhood, directly across the lake.
Hold on 1 minute. I'm going to ask for staff to bring up the map of the area, and using the cursor, we stopped the clock. Using the cursor, if you could show us where your residence is in relation to.
We are.
Hold on, that's not the right.
I'm terribly directionally challenged.
You need to stay at the podium. That's not the right map.
We are.
Is that the right map?
No.
Yeah, we need to. Hold on, folks. Staff is
showing the lake.
Right. Staff is pulling up the correct map for us.
Okay.
We've stopped the clock, Ms. Poole, so you don't have to. Okay. Now, if you could use the cursor to show us where your house is.
I got to get the angle. I'm sorry.
Because we do broadcast this on social media so that people joining remotely can see it.
Sorry, I was having a hard time seeing it from my vantage point. We are directly right there, across the lake from the subject property.
Okay, could you
with a direct view of the
So you're showing the cul-de-sac down on the southwest of the property.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody understands.
You got the Stevie Wonder School of Map reading here doing this. I'm sorry.
What'd she say? What'd she say?
Someone's going to have to do it. Yeah. Okay. Are you okay if I restart my comments? Okay.
You're here.
I'm here. Oh, I can see it here. I did not see I could see it here. Okay.
Philip,
I am so sorry. There we are. I wasn't looking at the monitor in front of me. I was looking at the screen.
Thank you. That just helps us understand.
Okay. If, with your permission, I'd restart. Yes. Okay. My name is Susan Poole. I live at 384 North Jackson Heights Court in the Marinita neighborhood, which is directly across the lake from the site that is under consideration. I'm here today to express my strong opposition to the proposed rezoning to allow a self-storage facility in what is a well-established, peaceful residential area. area. My husband and I purchased our almost new home less than 4 years ago, making a significant investment. After spending more than 2 decades, outside the city, we were initially hesitant to move back into the city due to concerns about crime and about emergency response time. Ultimately, the serene environment of the lake and the natural beauty and wildlife convinced us. Our home's design, featuring expansive glass windows, centers around the lake views, which are an essential part of our daily lives. This proposed development would severely disrupt that environment. A 35-foot tall steel storage facility lit at all hours and consuming nearly the entire site is entirely incompatible with the surrounding residential character. The limited landscaping proposed cannot conceal a structure of that size, especially from homes as close as 50 feet away, or from our home across the lake, particularly in the winter months where foliage is sparse. I understand the developer, Mr. Knowles, resides in a home of similar value, not far from ours, just a block off 13th Street. I would respectfully suggest that if this project were proposed across from his home, he'd be standing here before you today to object. It appears that he's seeking to bring storage, including space for his own personal RV, into our neighborhood because his own doesn't permit it. Beyond aesthetics, the concerns are practical and serious. These types of facilities are increasingly targets for theft, and their 24-hour access brings unfamiliar access and the potential for nuisance activities, including the marketing of some units as man caves, which raises questions about after-hours use in a family-friendly neighborhood. Additionally, storage sites are known to attract pests, illegal activity, and in fact, a fatal fire occurred this week in Hutchinson in a very similar facility. This only compounds the intrusion. What's even more troubling to me is that many residents, including ourselves and our neighbors with sizable investments in homes, only learned of this rezoning proposal by chance. Because of its small lot size, notification requirements were limited to 200 feet. Yet the visual, environmental, and financial impacts will be felt far beyond that radius. The lack of submitted renderings, which I understand is the case, further underscores to me a lack of transparency.
Mrs. Poole, your time is up. Can you wrap up in 1 sentence?
Absolutely. I would just encourage you to consider the decreased property values, increased safety concerns, and I think Wichita has enough of an issue with suburban flight already, and it's these kinds of developments, when they're permitted in otherwise peaceful residential neighborhoods, that cause people to, along with us, if this is approved, to seek a quieter place where our property values will be respected outside the city limits.
Thank you.
Thank you for your consideration.
Next speaker. Next speaker. Again, please give us your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Carrie Jo George. I live at 502 North Woodridge Street. Let's see, this is my house right here. So it's directly north of the planned development. So be a huge eyesore for our neighborhood. Not what we signed up for. You know, that was the house. It was residential when we moved in 3 years ago. And some questions I have for staff, Mr. Scott Waddell, can you explain why that?
Ma'am, keep your questions to the commission and we'll address them with staff.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Can you explain why a PUD is being requested for this?
Right, keep going.
And then with, you know, kind of it changing from that general office to a PUD, they couldn't build this with how it's zoned and how it was zoned when we bought our property. And basically, I guess my conclusion is I think this is a legal loophole to change the, you know, area that was meant to be residential.
Okay, anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Well, we're going to address your questions. But first, we have a question from the Commissioner Aldrich.
Okay.
Thank you. Ma'am, you live where you showed you live.
Yes.
Southeast of that catty corner, that like 2 lots over. Yeah, right there. What is those buildings? What's in there?
So that is self-storage. That's a lot shorter. And a lot of this landscaping, you can't see it as much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, who wants to address the question first? Mr. Wadle?
Yeah, hi, this is Scott Wadle. Hey, in terms of why the applicant is requesting a PUD, I'm going to defer to the applicant's agent to answer that perhaps more in depth. But what I would tell you is that PUDs are custom zoning. They're called planned unit developments, and it allows the applicant to come up with a set of customized zoning that they would propose for a property. And so that's what's happening here. And in the staff report, Christina has prepared a table that it reviews the proposed PUD to zoning that otherwise might apply, and what the differences are. And so my understanding is that the applicant is requesting the PUD in this instance so that they can have reduced setbacks and other customized features as part of the zoning, as opposed to rezoning it to a different district. But again, I'll defer to the applicant, provide a more thorough explanation of it, but that's my understanding, and there's that review in the staff report that provides that analysis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Scott. Thank you, Mrs. George. Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, guys. I'm John Greenstreet, 388 North Jackson Heights. Let's see, where am I? All right, here.
Okay.
I developed the 36 acres to the west of this property, starting at this line here, going over, including front gate, and all this property, including about 70 home sites, the hotel, and 2 office buildings and a church, and I've got some other lots there. I think you'd be greatly remiss in putting this zoning into place at this time. It's going to, I think, adversely affect our values, which we've spent millions of dollars over here developing wonderful, beautiful homes. I just hate to see you do something in this order at this time in this location. Thank you.
Mr. Greenstreet, folks. Mr. Greenstreet, just because of your history with the area, can you offer any reason why that particular parcel was zoned general office in all of that residential area?
Well, I tell you what, years ago, I sold that house myself. I didn't own it, but I sold it for a young client, and it was a single-family home. Then they sold it to an investor who rented it. He then had it rezoned, 4 years ago, something like that, into general office, thinking he was going to put an office building there, which would have been fine. But now it's morphed into what it is currently in the request of the PUD, which I think is the wrong thing to be doing at this time in that location.
So, if I may, do you know if there was any consternation or objection to it being turned into general office at that time?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. And if I understand it right, general office would allow a 35-foot tall steel building without it by right.
Well, I know when we built the hotel over there, 35 feet was the maximum, but we had ordinances and we had to observe for that purpose. But I'm not sure on this type of structure what the requirements are.
So, okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any questions for Mr. Greenstreet? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
All right.
Next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Kelly Peters, and this is my husband, Gary. We reside at 506 North Woodridge, which is across the street from this proposed rezoned area.
Show us on the map,
It's really hard to, okay, here. We are right here.
next to Miss George.
Yes, we are neighbors. So from our front porch, from our driveway, from the street entrance and exit, we are looking across the street at this property. My husband and I chose a vacant lot 15 years ago where we built our custom home. At that time, that area was pretty much residential. The city did rezone behind us and built over 200 apartment complexes there. So we've already had that huge change. We were told when we purchased our lot that that would be a residential community behind us. So we greatly oppose having this building built here. Number one, because we feel that a 35-foot metal warehouse type of structure in front of these residences, especially and specifically the people who live behind that, it will ruin their property value. It will ruin any chance they ever have of probably selling their property. That's the number one reason why I'm here today. I also think that this type of a structure, a tall metal structure, will ruin the character of our neighborhood. Yes, on the corner, there are commercial sites, and we knew that when we moved in and we built our home. But these were single home dwellings, not 35-foot metal building. And I find it humorous they're calling these garage condos, because who would want that in their neighborhood? Our property values will be impacted. And you cannot ever convince me that living near an RV condo warehouse, 35 feet tall, will not affect the look and the feel of our residential community. I did hear about the lighting. They don't plan on putting up high lighting on top of the building, which I'm glad to hear. But I think that will still impact the glare at nighttime for the residents who are living around that area.
Ma'am, you've used up your time. Can you wrap up in a sentence or two?
Yes, I would just like to reiterate that I know the Planning Commission has a great responsibility, and I hope that your decisions will be fair to the residents living around this property, to the family here who lives behind this structure.
Thank you.
Thank you for your consideration.
Next speaker.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shauna Shelton, and I live at 376 North Jackson Heights Court. It's this lot right here. I also have this lot here that my mentally ill sister lives in. I have this lot here that my daughter and granddaughter live in that I helped them get. And I also own this lot here. It's an empty lot. And I bought it because I'm an artist and I didn't want anyone to build next to me. My studio is a very large studio, which I do my work in. I was probably one of the first houses there. I think I moved in October of 2018, never to expect that there's going to be these type of buildings in this area. This is such a gem. I lived for 23 years in Whitetail, and in those 23 years, I would drive down Jackson Heights and say, this is it. This is where I want to live. This is exactly where I want to live. I spent my entire life dreaming of having a cottage on a lake. When I saw it available, I called John immediately and said, I want the biggest lot you have. I got it. Then I kept on adding. So I'm very against what's happening here. I've painted every animal out there, every tree, every animal, every bird. I love the wildlife, and I just hope that you can understand the impact this will on everything, the animal life, the people, our taxes, everything. I have almost $2 million involved in this. So this little camp that they want to do up there, the storage unit, I am totally against, and I hope you really look at this hard for all of us. Thank you. I gotta go.
Thank you.
Talk to y'all later.
Next speaker.
Good afternoon. I'm Marcia Hanson, and I live at 12217 Troon Court in Crest Lake subdivision. And I know we're not supposed to repeat anything that's been said, but I totally agree with all the items that have been mentioned. I vehemently oppose this. So do many other people, but some people have to work during the day, so they couldn't get here. My concern, as an extra to what everybody else has mentioned, is that this lot right here is currently up for sale for auction. It's still zoned residential, to my knowledge, but what's to keep the next person or this person from saying, oh, I'll just buy this too and get this rezoned? I can only assume that these garage condos are going to look like the ExecuStore ones over on Greenwich. Yep, we haven't seen a picture, but those are very tall and they're not pretty. So anyway, I just wanted to bring up that I'm very concerned about this lot when it goes up to auction. This person or somebody else is going to buy it and ask it to be rezoned. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Cleon Stewart, and my husband Fred and I live directly behind this we live right there. Is that there?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Which is 12431 East Central. There will be an immediate impact to our property value if the zoning changes to allow RV storage vaults, which are really just steel buildings, allowed. This will hurt our quality of life as well as the natural landscape. We have worked tirelessly to improve and preserve. Our home sits back from East Central, nestled in trees. We have a lovely cove and lakeside views. We have invested heavily in maintaining and improving the landscape. We and our neighbors maintain the lake. We had hoped to live there till we die. It was our forever home. We moved here in June of 2016 and have done much of the work ourselves, investing a considerable amount of money here. Friends and family gather at our home because our oasis is so inviting. We like to entertain, and people say being here feels like a visit to the country. We have even installed zip lines and a playhouse for our grandchildren. The proposed building will sit just 10 feet from our property line and 50 feet from the north side of our house. Potential tenants or unit owners will be able to come and go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, disturbing peace and quiet overhead lighting. This close to our house will be disruptive to take away from the natural setting of our home. The developer isn't worried about how close the building is to our house. He also said that he is building this to have a man cave or a party house for grown-ups. This is supported by the opportunity for buyers to have kitchenettes, bathrooms installed in these heated and cooled units. This is the last thing that we want as almost 80-year-old homeowners. The minimal landscaping the code requires won't shelter us from this multi-story steel structure. Lights will be well above our house and will ruin the solitude of our home all hours of the day and night. The driveway is planned to be 60 foot wide, leaving little room for any green space. Even more devastating for us is the plan to remove many of the large trees that currently shade our view from our home to Central Avenue. These trees are also home to wildlife that live at the lake. We are also concerned about the property being a target for crime and a security risk for us. We are concerned that there will be confusion when turning into their property and turning into ours instead. Realtors have told us that if this building is allowed, our property value will decrease 20 to 30%. The neighbors west of us, also our age, were so worried about this proposed zoning change, they hurried to auction their property, and they have already moved. In fact, the bidding on their property closed 30 minutes prior to the start of this meeting today.
Ma'am, your time is up. Can you wrap up in a 1 or 2 sentence statement?
I can. Thank you. You saw photos of our home and where it's at compared to this building. You have the power and responsibility to approve or reject any application for this building. The MAPC should not allow an ugly steel building like this to detract from the value of our home and the homes of our neighbors. This is your opportunity to reject this request.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
We have a question for you, ma'am. Ms. Stewart?
Yes.
Commissioner Joe Johnson?
I think you answered my question, but where is the driveway to your property?
It's
the east.
Right there.
And you own the driveway?
We own the driveway.
How much?
We have 3.5 acres.
So you own all that property?
We own all that property.
Out to the street?
And the storage units next to us, I can tell you that, of course, they were there when we bought our home, and we knew that. They have not been a problem. There has been some incidences of blighting and people there getting into their units, but this has not been a concern as much as this property here will be.
I'm surprised no one's mentioned the barnuminium down the street.
It's coming.
Hold on.
But anyway, this is our property, and
You own all that?
yes, we own all that, 3.5 acres.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker?
Hi, my name is Naomi Lockhart at 12221 East Troon Court. Let me see if I live right there. And this building will be such an eyesore, not only an eyesore for us, but it will, our property value will just sink. And like the lady said, we're retired, and we have put our retirement into our home, into a beautiful area. And my husband is currently on the HOA board of our community, and I have served on the board. And all of our neighbors work very, very hard to keep our area up, respect our neighbors, so that our property value can retain itself for years to come. And here we are, and we love the wildlife that comes through our neighborhood as well. And here comes this big building that has been stated will have, it's a party house for adults, all hours of the night. We don't have that in our area. And it's just going to be so disruptive and ugly. And I hope with everything we have that the board and the planning commission will vote this down for everyone that lives around it. They're beautiful homes. They're expensive homes. And an industrial park is where this place should be, not in a neighborhood. Yes, we have some office buildings in the neighborhood, but they're beautiful. I think that there are some that are a couple of stories tall, but most of them are one level, maintained with beautiful fountains in front of them. And this is just unacceptable. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Lockhart. Any questions? Saying none. Next speaker?
Good afternoon.
My name's Ron Blackwell. I live at 521 North Woodridge, and I am here this afternoon to request your support for denying the request and in support of my neighbors, most specifically Susan Poole, who I think nailed it. The reasons that she's given for my opposition, our collective opposition, I think are on point, and we would all appreciate your support. Thank you.
First off, good to see you, Chief.
See you.
I didn't recognize you with the beard, but as soon as I heard the voice, I knew who you were. Retired Fire Chief Ron Blackwell. Thank you for your service, sir. Any questions? Okay, seeing none. Next speaker.
Jim Wilson, 332 North Jackson Court. I only have one problem. I have not heard anybody speak about the water retention or disbursement from this property. I haven't been any place where we had parking, storage, that we haven't had the grease, we haven't had the oil, we haven't had the self-maintenance people pouring it out. Where's it going to go? It's all downhill to that water. We don't need it contaminated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Seeing none. Next speaker.
Hold on, gotta see. There should be a PowerPoint that I had sent over. Christina, is it in the deck?
Have that? Okay.
Oops.
1 second.
There it is. Thank you.
Okay, you'll have to call for the slides.
Yeah, I got you. I'm guessing left hand?
No, just say next slide.
Oh, okay. I don't have control of the slides. Okay, that's great. So this is the view that Christina had.
Sorry, did you give us your name and address, sir?
I'm sorry.
And we'll restart the clock.
Okay, thanks so much. Mike Poole, and I live at 384 North Jackson Heights. And I'm going to give you some views of that from this piece of property. If you look at this is from, of course, Central Avenue from the front. This is when there was, by the way, a sign that said that it was up for application for change. Someone took that sign down, by the way. You might go to the next slide. This is how close that will be to the house next door. That is the house that was torn down, is the one on the right. That is the house next door. Next slide. This is the house that Ms. Stewart spoke of. This is where she lives. A lot of these trees that you don't see right here are all going away in order to accommodate this structure. Next slide. If you look across from our side of the lake, that gray house is what was torn down, by the way, Ken. Thank you for that. It looks much better. That's one thing I can say that you did do from a beautification standpoint. But as you can see, there is no way possible that that's not viewable to us. And if you think about 35 feet, we're talking about up that telephone pole right there to just about where that tree limb crosses. That'll be my line of sight. Next slide. This is looking back from that property, looking back at our houses. There is 4 houses here that are all directly impacted, and the 5th. And this area that you see down in front, that's our commons area. Next. The barndominium. Since there is no drawing that has been produced, amazingly enough, and I guess I don't need that. Thank you. This alone tells the story. This is on Central, just down west. It was quite a discussion point, not necessarily for us. We weren't involved in it very much, but that's the large scale of what we're talking about and taking up that whole acre of space. Next. That's it. Just turn those off and I want to show you back on the map. We tried to superimpose something. Good or bad. It's a better drawing than what we've got because I didn't bring one. Turn that off now, please. Let's go back to the map. You know, I think about this, I am all about having development. But the problem is that the development that we have going on here, it doesn't produce any jobs. It doesn't have anything that's sustaining as far as that goes. The facility is proposed from a form, fit, and function of the community and the neighborhood. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the character. And I'm kind of a closet architect, Joe, I'm sorry. But I would love to have been the person who sat down and said, this is what you could do, not what is coming in. So from a form, fit, and function, we've already talked about all the issues that are bad. I would say that I did go out and pull all of the tax records.
Sir, your time
2
is up.
seconds. I'll give you
Two statements.
Yep. I did go out and look at the tax rolls. I added up just in what's on Woodridge and what's in our little Marinera and those three properties around. And when you look at that, that's a combined value of $22 to $25 million. This is a property when sold out will be at $2 million. That's a huge difference in what the tax base is and what goes in, especially if you reduce from a 10 to 15% loss in your value.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We have a question for you, Commissioner Klontz.
Hi, I have a question. It looks like just east of Jackson Heights Court, there's a large, tall steel building. Can you tell us what that is?
On the right?
It's on the east side of the lake.
Right here? This building here?
Yes.
That is a building. It's a gymnasium. It is, by the way, unseeable for the most part because there are many trees along here, large trees, and it blocks that view from just about everyone on our side of the lake.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. And by the way, that's where the aftershocks practice.
Next speaker. Next speaker, going once, going twice. We're returning discussion now to the applicant agent for rebuttal. You'll have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon again, Ken Lee with Garver, 1995 Midfield Road. So as far as the comments here, I do want to say that we're always concerned when we do projects about the impacts on the neighbors and what changes that we're proposing and what happens here. And there's been a lot of talk about the 35-foot buildings. And if you look at GEO zoning, GEO allows up to 60-foot tall buildings in that zoning. So for all the concern about these 35-foot buildings that we're looking at, this zoning could certainly allow much larger and taller structures than that. So there's been a lot of focus on how tall these are, but this zoning allows, the current zoning allows even taller than that. There was talk about the concerns about crime and getting into the site. The entry to the site will be very clearly marked, and it accesses onto Central, so we're not going to be routing any extra traffic through any of the neighborhoods. Nobody would go through a neighborhood to get to these structures. So I'm not sure that I would worry yourselves too much about folks driving through your neighborhood on the way to this site. As was noted earlier, the concerns about the use, there's already storage units in the area. Anybody who's buying in this area is already going to be buying or building next to storage units already. So it's not like we're introducing a new use in the area. And we always look at that. Are we doing a use that's compatible with the area? The question was brought up, why did we do the PUD? And it was mentioned, it came down to, we were 100 feet too far west to do this zoning because general office allows this use if you're directly contiguous with other units. So if this was 100 foot east, we wouldn't even have this conversation about the rezone. But the PUD is also for the reducing that front setback from 35 feet to 20 feet. So that is the primary change that required the PUD, was that front setback reduction. And then I'll just finish by saying noise issues. I did talk to the developer. I sent him a message and said there's a lot of complaints on noises. They will have covenants that limit the hours where people can make noise. If it's outside that, the city of Wichita has noise ordinances. You can call the police. So with that, I'll take any questions that might be there.
Halt, folks. This is back to the commission for questions.
I just want
Mr. Zeverbergen?
State for the record that with compatibility height standards, even though it's geozoning, the height limit would still likely be 35 feet based on compatibility height standards, since the geo is right next to SF5 zoning. So even though geo would allow 60 feet, compatibility height surpasses that based on the nearby zoning. So just correction for the record.
I'm glad you brought that up, Philip. What is the allowable height for single family residential?
35 feet.
So it's the same as what this is request. All right, thank you.
Correct.
Mr. Lee, there was a question that was brought up about water disbursement, drainage.
Yeah, and so we've been working on that with the developer, and what our plan to do is we have an obligation to monitor our runoff, and we're going to design the site so any water that goes to the south will be limited to what the pre-developed levels are, and then we're proposing a small storm sewer system to go into Central to take and we're only talking, this is a small site. I mean, for all the talk about all the impervious area, we're only looking at something on the order of 5 CFS of runoff, which is like something that can be carried in an 8-inch or 12-inch pipe. So we'll handle it where we don't dump additional water onto any of the neighbors, and we'll connect into the central storm sewer if we need to make sure that we don't direct any additional runoff to other places.
And that drainage plan still has to be reviewed and signed off by city staff, correct?
Yeah, during the building permit process, the drainage plan, since they are changing the use on it, they will have to essentially do a drainage plan during the building permit process.
Thank you. Any other, Commissioner Williams Bay?
Is there any landscaping planned for the west side of the building?
We haven't completed the landscaping plans, but they'll be in compliance with the city's requirements. And as was mentioned earlier, we're going to be required to do 50% more dense landscaping than the normal would be required at the request of the Planning Commission. We agree to that requirement.
Thank you.
Did I see Commissioner Warren?
That was one of my questions. The other one is, can you tell me what kind of materials you're looking to build this with? What's
nothing to do.
What are we going to see when the building's done?
There'll be metal buildings as the plan. One thing we're working on right now is trying to fit wainscoting or other type of features to break up the face so it's not just all one face. We're working on those type of things, but it will be a metal building though. And it will have a gable roof. It won't be like slanted just one direction. They're planning on just a normal gable roof on it.
Commissioner Mader.
Back to that drainage, I'm a little slow today. Pardon me. Drainage to the south, you said? So that'll be across adjacent property? How do you see the drainage working to the south?
So what we'll do is the whole site not the whole site, 80% of the site drains to the south right now. So water currently runs that way. And so with development standards, you're allowed to follow natural drainage patterns. And so the thing we have the obligation to is if there's a concern is to make sure that we don't increase that runoff. And so what we'll do is we'll put features in there to try and make sure that we don't cause erosion. We'll have some kind of energy dissipation to make sure the water isn't focused and causing erosion.
And your building is just 10 foot off the south property line?
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant agent? Sir, this is commission. You had your opportunity.
I do.
I'm sorry, ma'am, this is commission discussion. Public comment has already happened. So I have a question for staff. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Okay, thank you.
Staff, with the new evidence from the applicant, evidence is probably not the right word, but the new submission from the applicant, are there any concerns or changes or adjustments to the recommended action from staff?
Because they're essentially can count off-street parking spaces within the garages, they actually didn't change they accepted all staff recommendation, and all they did was change the drawing to show 4 off-street parking spaces up front. But because they're providing an opportunity for parking within the garages, it still meets the minimum requirement offered by it. So there really was no reduction of parking. Right. They just updated their drawing to show fewer parking spaces outside the garages. So they've accepted all of staff recommendation and just provided an updated drawing that showed fewer parking spaces out front, but they still meet the minimum.
Okay. Thank you. Any other concerns for staff? So this is a unique parcel. The fact that it is zoned general office in what has been a residential area. I think the PUD reducing the uses. I mean, for instance, they could have duplexes on there right now by right. And I think we'd have probably even a bigger crowd here today if that was the ask. But by right, they could do that. So by having this PUD that limits the uses to what is compatible with the neighborhood, again, we are not deciding on building materials. That is not part of our discussion. Our discussion is this an appropriate use for the site, considering it could be general office and all the other allowable uses that go with that. I move to approve the application with conditions and the modified PUD text.
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner McKay.
I have a comment.
Commissioner Joe Johnson.
I'm really torn on this. I drive by that barnuminium 3 or 4 times a day, and I drive by the storage units over on Greenwich 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. There's never anybody there. So what we're not adding to this area, if we approve this, is traffic. And I think that's the only positive I can think of. Thank you.
Any other comments? Commissioner Mader.
We're back to that problem that I run into a lot on these. Everything seems to work, except the adjacent neighbors are seriously opposed to it. And I think just based on some rights that they do or don't have and their expectations of where they live, I'm probably not going to be able to support this one either for just the reasons of what the neighborhood opinions on it. The property is probably a great use. I think we have to give some value to the neighbors.
Okay. Seeing no other comments or raised hands, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
All right, we'll have to do a roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Fry?
Yay.
Mader?
Nay.
McKay?
Yay.
Dool?
No.
Bill Johnson?
No.
Hi.
Yay.
Nix is absent. Kluntz?
Yay.
Warren? Joe Johnson?
Nay.
Miles is absent. Zimbelman is absent. Aldrich?
Yes.
Williams Bay? Motion passes 6-5.
All right, thank you. Next item. Staff, has this been heard by the District Advisory Board yet?
No, it'll be going in June.
So for the public that are here today, your next opportunity for public comment will be at the District 2 Advisory Board meeting in June. Thank you. We've had 2 close votes today, 2 6-5s. Yeah, no. You surprised me.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Christina Reith again with planning staff for case zone 2025-17. The applicant is requesting a zone change from industrial park to general commercial. The 40-acre property is located on the west side of South Rock Road, 1/2 mile northeast 47th Street South. It's currently in use as agricultural land, but they are requesting the zone change in order to allow uses permitted in general commercial zoning. General commercial zoning, it allows a lot more uses in industrial park. In industrial park, you have a total of 23 public, civic, commercial, and industrial uses by right, whereas GC zoning allows for 89. In general, this general commercial district would permit public civic uses, retail-oriented, and residential uses. Industrial park zoning does not allow for residential uses either by right or with a conditional use. If approved, the requested zone change would also permit more high-density residential and commercial uses, and it would allow changes to the development standards as demonstrated in the table in your staff report. The subject site is also subject to the Air Force Base Protective Overlay, which restricts the height of any structure to 25 feet. However, there are no restrictions on land uses within this overlay. The applicant has proposed a protective overlay to implement restrictions on the property. This PO would prohibit off-site, portable, and billboard signs, and all ground signs would be monument signs. It would also restrict some of the higher intensity uses on site, such as auditoriums, entertainment establishments, hospitals, microbreweries, and any amendment to any changes for those uses would require an amendment to the protective overlay. If the GC district request is approved, staff recommends slight modifications to the proposed PO that would limit uses to those found only in commercial and industrial categories. The character of the neighborhood is rural within the vicinity of the Air Force Base. To the north, we have McConnell Air Force Base along with agricultural land and a single-family dwelling, as you can see in the zoning map here. To the south is also zoned industrial park with use I can't even talk, I'm sorry, and is in use as agricultural land. To the east, across South Rock Road, are property zoned rural residential and developed with single-family dwellings. And to the west, we also have the Air Force Base. All properties, with the exception of the actual Air Force Base, are within the AFBPO overlay district. The property has been replatted twice since it was initially platted, so once in 2022 and once in 2025. In 2005, the subject site changed zoning to industrial park. In 2007, there was a zone change request from limited industrial to limited industrial with a protective overlay, but it was deferred indefinitely. And then in 2008, there was a request to limited industrial again with a protective overlay, along with a conditional use for wrecking and salvage yard. After a denial recommendation from the Planning Commission, the application was withdrawn. The requested zone change is not in conformance with the Community Investments Plan. The Future Growth Concept Map identifies the site as appropriate for agricultural or vacant uses. The proposed rezoning would expand the number of uses that are not in conformance with the comprehensive plan. The Community Investment Plan's locational guidelines provide a framework for decision-making regarding land use changes to encourage patterns of development that efficiently and effectively use land, public infrastructure, and services. One of the land use compatibility guidelines within the locational guidelines states that residential development should not encroach upon existing or planned heavy industry, airfields, and military installations. And within GC zoning, they allow single-family, two-family, multifamily up to 75.1 dwelling units per acre. And then in your staff report, there's a little bit of background text regarding the McConnell Air Force Base Joint Land Use Study. Planning staff recommends that the zone change request be denied based on the golden rules that are listed in your staff report. Should the Planning Commission approve the zone change request, it is recommended that you adopt alternative findings and approve the request with a protective overlay, which is very similar to that the applicant already submitted, with the exception is that uses shall be limited to commercial and industrial uses only. So let's go to some of the site photos. This is looking east away from the site. Next slide, please. This is looking north away from the site towards South Rock Road. Next slide, please. This is looking south away from the site. Next slide, please. And this is looking west towards the subject site. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Seeing none. Thank you, Christina. We'll ask the applicant agent to come forward, give us your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 10 minutes. Picked a bad day to quit smoking. Kidding. Still smoke cigars.
Kirk Miller, K.E. Miller Engineering, 117 East Louis. I'm the agent. This is zoned industrial. It's a weird industrial zoning, which is why it probably hasn't been developed yet, is because of the restrictions that are on the property. Another reason that may not have developed is because the nearest water and sewer are about a mile away, which is going to limit what can actually be done on this property. It'll keep you from having high density uses, which is, I'm sure, part of what the Air Force Base is concerned with. The staff report says they would like, if this is to be approved, they're thinking commercial industrial uses only. We're fine with that. We have no problem taking out the residential. One thing that I think we might also want to throw in there is to allow uses in the IPA zoning that are public and civic. Just use those uses. Not that we would do them. They're kind of weird, like a recycling, reverse recycling, and that type of stuff. So, but if we could leave them in there along with just commercial and industrial uses, they're already allowed by the IPA. So if we leave them, we'd have no problem with that. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. You are in agreement with the protective overlay uses, correct?
The commercial industrial uses, which is what the staff has for an alternative if you were to approve it. Yes, we're fine with
then also
commercial
item
industrial.
D, no electronic message signs.
Actually, I don't think there's a problem with that. They have been approached by a billboard company, but they can always come back and take that out of the PO or have another case on that if we can't address
Right, because right now,
that
protective
here.
overlay item C says no off-site billboard signs.
Right.
You'd have to do that separately. Okay.
I'm assuming we would,
But
yeah.
you would like us to add back in public and civic uses. Is that a request?
The ones that are allowed by the industrial
Permitted
airport.
uses in the IP.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Did I see Mr. Warren, Commissioner Warren?
The history behind this, not this side, but on the south side, I know that McConnell is concerned, but they really are limited as to what they can say and what they can do. It's up to us to watch out for what we put around close to a military installation. I know that the Lowe's store got in, and because there was the promise of, or the expectation of light turnout, that you're not going to have a lot of people. In case a plane ever went down, you want to have something that limits that. I'm not sure what we've got in this side with this location to the base. What does this change do in terms of what kind of businesses could go in and the number of people that they're going to be bringing into the area?
Was that a question for staff or the applicant?
It's a question for staff. I know that there were guidelines put out when they were looking at developing areas in the south and over to the south of the base and to the west side of K-15. Zoning was turned down because it was going to bring in too many people, and the idea of where the base was located. And I'm just wondering if we're looking at the same thing here.
Mr. Wadle.
Yes, thank you, sir. So the history with this, my recollection is that McConnell partnered with the city of Wichita, Sedgwick County, and I think the city of Derby at the time, back in, I think, 2007, to undertake a planning process in order to preserve the viability of McConnell. And the reason why is because there had just been base closures across the country. And so they were looking at how can we ensure the viability of the base moving forward. And other bases were doing this across the country as well. Out of that planning effort came this zoning district that this property is zoned, as well as others, because this zoning district is not in use in any other locations in the county except for what you see on this map, this purple IPA. The current zoning, yep. And so with that, though, when this case came up, we did reach out to McConnell for some input, and I'm going to turn it over to Philip if he wants to provide some.
Hold on a second. Mr. Miller, I think we may be done with you since we're having staff discussion. If you want to sit down. Now, if there's any more questions for Mr. Miller, I'm sure you're fine. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
We received comment back from McConnell, and echoing what was in the joint land use plan, major concern of theirs was in this area there are noise contours that produce significant levels of decibels of noise, and so limiting the amount of impact to types of uses that would attract a number of people, even if it's more on the commercial retail side of things. So to answer your question regarding what can general commercial allow that IPA can't, a lot of those higher intensity uses in the commercial district are more customer oriented type of services where you do have higher concentrations of people coming into a business. The joint land use study identified that higher intensity commercial zoning districts like general commercial could be appropriate, except for the fact that they allowed residential development. And that's specifically what they wanted to avoid against, but also along the lines of higher intensity people-oriented businesses, simply because of the impact of the Air Force Base. This location is to the side of the Air Force Base where it's not even in the overlays off the ends of the runway. And the only overlay on this one is a height restriction. And so staff's perspective was, because this zoning district was created from the joint land use study, that this zoning district was the most appropriate, even though the land use compatibility guidelines from that joint land use study said that higher intensity commercial could be compatible. This was deemed the most compatible because it limits the people-oriented type of businesses that would be significantly impacted just by the natural day-to-day operations of the base.
Thank you. Are you done, Chuck? Okay, as long as we're staying on staff questions before we have public comment. So I think Mr. Aldrich was first and then Mr. Dool.
Okay, I don't have a question for staff. I have a comment, so I'll hold off.
You'll wait? Okay. Commissioner Dool.
Yeah, I just also had a comment that I think that this location is not too far from the firing range of McConnell. In addition to noise from airplanes, they shoot guns and other ordnance not too far from there.
I don't know if anyone's from McConnell is here to address that. So we'll now go to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, there's no rebuttal needed. So unless you had information related to Mr. Dool's comment, no? Okay, we'll bring it back to the board for consideration. Question for staff. The comment from McConnell was about the high traffic intensity uses. It wasn't in relation to the commercial and industrial use as proposed in the PO, correct?
Right, and that kind of goes to my comment of, like, it wasn't just an issue with residential uses. Like, their comment also identifies just high traffic uses. Right. So staff's recommendation was, well, at least we could take out residential, knowing that higher intensity commercial, you're at least not having the residential impact.
Got it.
But again, I believe McConnell's comment is essentially even high traffic commercial wouldn't necessarily be appropriate.
But they didn't specifically say that.
They won't. They're very careful about trying to make comments on a community around them. But they'll leave if it doesn't fit their desire.
Okay. Commissioner Aldrich.
We sort of touched bases on it a couple of times here, and I thought that it's exactly where it was going. It's my comments. A few years back, we had BRAC going across the nation. McConnell was on that list, and the congressman at that time was able to steer that away, which was a good thing. And what we're seeing, and that we saw in other communities throughout the country, where they started developing close to those boundaries, little chips at a time. Next thing you know, you've encroached quite a bit, and they moved out, so they were more successful to closing. The economic impact that McConnell Air Force Base has to our community, our surrounding region, as far as that goes, is tremendous, and that would be an extreme bad thing. To hit Wichita and the surrounding areas. There's a reason why we have those boundaries the way we do. And I'm just afraid that if we start chipping away at that, we could be opening the door in the future, to a dangerous situation here where we might lose the Air Force Base. So based on that, and I'm sure there are going to be more comments here, I would make a recommendation to support staff's recommendations for denial.
I would second that. And just another question, does McConnell oppose this application?
They didn't provide an approval or denial. They just provided a comment.
So I'm going to offer an alternative substitute motion, but first a question. As relates to the protective overlay, item 6, commercial and industrial uses only. Are the commercial uses only what is permitted by right in the IPA district?
No, it'd be those in the GC district because that's what they're asking for.
So my question, so then I'm going to make a motion to approve because and my alternative finding is the applicant is agreeable to the protective overlay 454. But I want to add that the commercial use only would be what is permitted by right in the IPA district and not general commercial. And also add in the public and civic uses as identified permitted by right in the IPA district. Because I think that meets what McConnell's concern about high-intensity traffic by limiting to just the public and civic uses and the commercial uses as identified by the IPA district. And it removes the high-intensity traffic of commercial and industrial. But since the applicant was agreeable to the protective overlay, this is a best of both worlds. Does everybody follow?
Question.
Yes.
How far away from McConnell is this site?
You can see it actually backs up to the McConnell property on the west and a little bit on the north.
Because it's right along Rock Road. So,
Mr. Chair, can you clarify, we're kind of a discussion over here. Did you say that there would be no industrial uses or the industrial uses are fine?
No, industrial uses as permitted by GC.
So I'm just going to repeat your motion for clarification. So approve per the protective overlay, modifying item number 6 with the uses to where it would allow commercial and public and civic uses as allowed in the IPA district, and then industrial allowed in GC.
Correct. And we have a second by Commissioner Bill Johnson. Does anybody know if Commissioner Joe Johnson left?
No, he'll be back.
Okay. Commissioner Warren.
I guess I need to know what the impact of that in terms of density of people. What is this going to do? What's this going to do when McConnell looks at it down the line if they go through another stage of reduction and they make evaluations? What's this?
So in general, commercial uses permitted in the IPA district is significantly fewer than what's permitted in the GC district. When it comes to industrial uses, they're pretty even.
But they've already agreed to the commercial uses in the IPA district when this was redone. Correct?
Well, I'm just providing general feedback of the number of commercial uses in GC is pretty significant. Right. When you look at the commercial uses allowed in IPA, it's significantly less. Right. So.
Yeah, they haven't approved it. They haven't made any comments on it.
No. My point is they have agreed to the commercial uses by right in the IPA district. That's already identified. Car wash, construction sales and service, monument sales, printing and copying, printing and public warehousing. They've already agreed to that when this was the part of the study back in 2006. They agreed that those uses could be allowed within this.
McConnell did.
No, okay.
I think you're playing with fire. Just my comments.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second that's been approved. Do you want to read it back since Commissioner Joe Johnson had to step out of the room?
Sure. The substitute motion.
Substitute motion, thank you.
Yes. The substitute motion on the floor is to approve the zone change request with the protective overlay that would have a modified item number 6 related to uses, and it would allow for commercial uses and public and civic uses per the IPA zoning district, and allow for industrial uses per the GC district.
That was your motion?
Correct.
I heard that before.
Okay, I want to make sure. All right, so we'll probably have to do a voice vote on this one again, since we had an alternative, or original motion. So Mr. Wadle, all those to approve the substitute motion for approval?
Yes, sir. Fry?
Aye, yes.
Mater?
Aye.
McKay?
Aye.
Dool?
No.
Bill Johnson?
Yes.
Hi.
Yes.
Nix is absent. Cluns?
Nay.
Warren? Joe Johnson?
Aye.
Miles is absent. Zimbelman is absent. Aldrich?
No.
Williams Bay? The motion passes 6-5.
All right, next item. Six to five seems to be the numbers today.
And the people who vote, it changes, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
Christina Reith again with planning staff here to present Zone 2521. The applicant is requesting a zone change from limited industrial district to general commercial district. The 4-acre property is located within a community unit plan known as CUP-DP 28, the Broadway 47 Plaza Community Unit Plan, generally located on the east side of South Water, within 225 feet south of East 47th Street South. Property is currently developed with a parking lot, and the applicant is requesting the zone change in order to allow residential development. Limited industrial zoning does not allow for any residential uses either by right or with a conditional use. General commercial zoning allows for a maximum density of 75 residential dwelling units per acre. The subject site is located within Parcel 9 of the CUP, which currently allows for shopping center, financial institutions, office, personal services, restaurant and retail sales, and other uses permitted by the zoning district. These are all permitted, so these are already permitted uses within GC, so they would not have to necessarily make a CUP amendment if they agree to abide by the existing conditions within the CUP. According to Section 4A of the Unified Zoning Code, if they're looking to do multifamily residential development, that would be 1 parking space per dwelling unit for single-family and 2-family dwellings, and then 1.25 parking spaces per studio or 1-bedroom unit, and 1.75 parking spaces per 2-bedroom or larger units. However, within the CUP, parking requirements on Parcel 9 are reduced by 25%. The requested zone change will not have an effect of the signage on the property. The CUP defaults to the Wichita sign code, but prohibits off-site and portable signs, and the provisions for GC and LI are the same. The landscaping provisions for Parcel 9 are not specified within the CUP document, so it defaults to the Wichita Landscape Code. So if they end up installing or constructing a multifamily residential development on site, the applicant will be required to install 1 shade tree or 2 ornamental trees for every 500 square feet of required landscape street yard. The character of the neighborhood is a mixture of commercial and commercial and industrial uses. Properties to the north are zoned limited commercial within the CUP. One is developed with a retail store and the other is undeveloped. To the south, we have limited commercial within the CUP as well as limited industrial. The LC property is a platted reserve, and the LI property, which is across West 48th Street South, is developed with a manufacturing facility. To the east is zoned LC within the CUP and is developed with a parking lot, and to the west, across South Water Street, is zoned limited industrial and is undeveloped. The CUP was created in 1978, and then in 2006, an amendment to the CUP was approved to reduce the parking requirements on Parcel 9, which is where the subject site is located. In 2007, the subject site was platted, and then in 2020, the Wichita City Council approved the zone change request from limited commercial to limited industrial, as well as a CUP amendment. The requested zone change is not in conformance with the Community Investments Plan. The Wichita Future Growth Concept Map identifies the site as appropriate for new employment uses, which is areas that will likely be developed or redeveloped by 2035, with uses that constitute centers or concentrations of employment primarily in manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, construction, research, technology, business services, or corporate offices. So this will allow for higher density housing, but when we're talking about new employment, I mean, they're talking about higher intensity employment uses, so not in line with residential development. The locational guidelines state that residential development should not encroach upon existing or planned heavy industry, airfields, and military installations. So if we take a look at the zoning map here, everything that you see in light purple is zone limited industrial. And here they're proposing commercial development, and it's encroaching into an existing industrial area. And it's also not in conformance with the South Wichita-Hayesville area plan. The future land use map for this plan identifies the area as appropriate for commercial uses. So while GC permits commercial developments, the applicant is requesting the zone change for residential uses. So planning staff is recommending denial of this application based on the golden rules which are listed in your staff report. I still have not heard any comments from the public regarding the zone change request. Should the MAPC decide to recommend approval, it is recommended that the MAPC adopt alternative findings supporting the recommendation and approve the zone change to general commercial district. So let's go ahead to some of the site photos here. This is looking east towards the existing parking lot. Next slide, please. This is looking north towards the site. This is a little bit more of the parking lot as well as a retail store. Next slide, please. This is looking south towards a manufacturing facility. You may all know it as a Pepsi plant. Next slide, please. This is looking west away from the site. It is undeveloped, but it is zoned limited industrial. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Christina. Any questions for Christina? Seeing none, thank you. Ask the applicant agent to come forward. And I know you've been here already, but please give us your name and address for the record, and you'll have 10 minutes.
Sure. Kirk Miller, K.E. Miller Engineering, 117 East Louis. I believe Christina said that the CUP says that you can do any uses, like they could do in the GC next to this, they could put residential in that. Am I correct?
Yeah, go ahead.
For our folks online, yeah. So there are portions of the CUP that are zoned limited commercial and general commercial, which do allow for residential development up to 75.1 dwelling units per acre. Did I answer your question?
So, yeah, the question then is, right next door to the east in that vacant property, they could put residential development. So they could do that right next door. We want to do it in this piece that we have that's currently zoned LI, just downgrade it, downzone it to GC where we could then do the residential development we want to do.
Is there anything else you want to add, Mr. Miller?
The developer is here if you have any questions for him. I'd be glad to try to answer
You
your questions.
still have 8 minutes, 8.5 minutes if he wants to add anything to it.
You want to add anything, Tom?
I just think it's time to change the property.
This is a piece of property that hasn't had anything on it except for a parking lot. And we're not even sure why there's parking lot on it, to be honest.
Sir, give us your name and address for the record.
Tom Schmeidler, 6854 South Greenwich Road. I believe it's time to change the use in hopes also that the properties to the east will be able to create more either general commercial or retail because there will be housetops. And a lot of times, sometimes the businesses have to come first and then the homes have to come second. Other times, the rooftops have to come first and then the homes second. But this property has been stalemated since the leakers was removed, and I'm very familiar with the area because I was raised in the area, since the leakers was removed 25 years ago. And it's time to get something moving down there other than a parking lot and a bunch of weeds and a bunch of vagrants. So that's really all I have. Is there any questions?
Commissioner McKay, I'm sorry. I was trying to think of a question that I wanted to ask and I didn't see your hand up.
Both the street on the both streets that show platted here, are they paved and all ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No other questions? Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? I'm sorry, Kirk, were you done?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board, and Mr. Wadle has a comment.
Yes, sir. Philip's doing some research real quick. We want to make sure we get you the best information on the CUP and uses.
Okay.
He's scrolling to the right place.
So it's an interesting situation where this is parcel. I'll just go with the CUP parcels allow specific uses, and then they end with a tagline that says as permitted in the underlying zoning district. So it'd be like financial institutions, commercial retail, and so on and so forth, with very specific uses as permitted in the underlying zoning district. This specific parcel is unique in that it says and other uses as permitted in the underlying zoning district. So all of the other CUPs only allow the very specific uses that are identified in the CUP text. And this one was the only one that said, and other uses allowed in the zoning district. So the CUP does not allow for residential. The only way it would be is if this property is rezoned to a district that would allow residential, because it has the blanket statement on this parcel that says, and other uses as permitted in the zoning district. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And those other uses are?
Well, that's the point, is in GC, other uses would include residential. The other GC and LC properties within the CUP, those parcel descriptions identify very specific uses, none of them of which are residential, and the tagline on them are like financial institutions, convenience retail, shopping center, as permitted in the zoning district, saying although those uses are permitted in LC. This one's unique in saying you have these specific uses, and then it says and other uses as permitted in the zoning district. So this one's the only one that has the gate open for other uses, depending on what the underlying zoning district is.
And that was the property next door.
So it's all of the other ones. All the rest of them, this is the only one that has.
For example, parcel 1, shopping center, financial institutions, office, personal services, and retail sales as permitted by the zoning district. Same thing for parcel 2. Parcel 3, financial institutions, offices, personal services, restaurants, service stations, including convenience stores, car washes approved by the BZA, and retail sales as permitted in the zoning district. It's not until you get to parcel 9 where you get the statement of and other uses.
So basically, the applicant's request is a good request.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're requesting a downzoning GC because that's the last zoning district that allows for residential uses. And it essentially is still in character from a commercial point of view, but it would then open the door for residential uses based on how the CUP is written.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, what's the will of the board? Anybody care to make a motion? Huh? You're looking at me. Ready for another 6-5 vote? I'm not trying to predict anything. Well, considering the request and the uniqueness of it, I recommend that we approve the item due to the alternate findings of the uniqueness of the CUP and how it is allowable. I'm not sure if I'm saying this the right way, but I'm looking at Abby. We have a motion. Is that good enough?
Her mic's not working.
Okay. We have a second already, so.
Mr. Chair, there we are. Would you also want to rely on the comments of the applicant?
Yes. Thank you. All right. Appreciate that. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Are we going to need a voice roll call? Do you want to do it? All right, so all in favor of the motion to approve, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, we have it. We have enough voices. All opposed say nay. Hey.
You still want to do a voice roll call?
We don't need to. That is our last item. Our next meeting is June 12th. I hope everyone has a safe and enjoyable Memorial Day. Thank you.
And as a reminder, those on subdivision committee, there is no meeting next week.
No meeting for subdivision next week.
The next meeting is June 5th.
Okay.